safely, calling on Governor Gretchen Whitmer not to extend pandemic-related restrictions or in-person office work. They're set to expire next month. The group includes the Michigan Chamber of Commerce and the chambers in Grand Rapids, Lansing, Southern Wayne County, and Birmingham. Joining us on WWJ, Wendy Block, Vice President of Business Advocacy and Michigan Member Engagement at the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Wendy.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you here. So tell us exactly what you are calling on the governor to do. You think it's time to put an end to all of the restrictions?
Well, safely. That's kind of the key word we're using here. So with a downward trend in COVID rates, we believe that businesses of all sizes and types should be allowed to reopen safely. And that includes reopening our offices because Michigan has had a remote work requirement, a ban on in-person work, going back to last year around this time. And we think it's time for the governor to start thinking about lifting the restrictions, including the ban on in-person work.
Well, I think most of the attention, as you know, has been focused on bars and restaurants, which of course couldn't allow in-person dining for a long time. They're now up to 50%. So the office work and other employees, do you think that part has maybe not gotten as much attention?
Yeah, I think it really has gotten lost, and that is largely due to the fact that many of the restrictions on restaurants and entertainment facilities, for example, have been quite strict, and in fact, those businesses had been completely shuttered for some time. But there has not been as much focus on this office ban, and actually, that ban was put in place by MIOSHA. And the other bans were put in place by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The ban that we're talking about is a complete ban on in-person work, except for very limited circumstances. And this rule that put it into place is expiring on April 14. So we believe this conversation is extremely timely. Employers have the PPE on hand. They have their preparedness and response plan. They know how they can properly social distance employees in the workplace. And so it's a time for the governor to allow employers to work with their employees to figure out how they can begin to return workers to the office safely, because we're losing opportunities for innovation and collaboration. A lot of employees, myself included, we're getting to the point where we're lonely and we're isolated and we're ready to go back to work, but the governor's restrictions say we can't. And we just think that those decisions need to start to be made in the workplace.
Wendy, don't you think, though, that even if the state lifted its restrictions, that many employers are going to keep things the way they are and still have people work at home or remotely?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And we think that's perfectly appropriate. We think these decisions are best made in the workplace with conversations between employers and employees and a union, if there is a unionized workplace. But right now, those things can't even happen unless you just want to completely thumb your nose at the rules. So, yes, I think a lot of these remote work components will continue to be part of our lives. We're hearing from many employers that the plan is, when they can return to the office, to ask employees if they want to and to figure out what those schedules might look like. Maybe they have a standing meeting one day a week, but there's some flexibility on remote work on other days. But again, right now, employers don't really have that option. And we think it's time to kind of follow the lead of pretty much every other state and let these decisions start to be made in the workplace.
Wendy, you say return to work safely. So how would that look exactly, though? If someone's back in an office environment for 8 hours, maybe you're in an open workspace, you're sitting next to other people, maybe people are eating their lunch or having a coffee break there. How do you do that safely? And do you require people to wear masks for 8 hours? I mean, how would that work?
Yeah, so actually a lot of these rules are already in place in the MIOSHA order about when offices reopen. Unfortunately, there is this component that is there today that says work must be done remotely if that's at all feasible. But it's in the CDC requirements. It's happening in other states, but there are requirements about increased cleaning requirements, mask wearing, social distancing. What happens when there's an open environment, and really employers have to rethink that. You can't be sitting 6 inches from someone. you have to be sitting 6 feet from them, and situations where an employee does and doesn't have to wear a mask. All of these things have been thought through. They are down on paper. I think most employers, pretty much they're fine with that, but they want to be able to put those protocols to work and bring people back to the office.
Any response from the governor's office yet, or any indication, do you think, how the governor will respond to this?
So actually, we think this is quite timely because the governor has now said in the news media that they are very likely to continue this ban on in-person work through probably October. And we're disappointed to hear that, but we did recognize and know that that discussion was on the table. Right now, we think, though, the time is critical. If people agree with us that these decisions properly do belong in the workplace and should be decided not on a one-size-fits-all policy, but individually, that they should contact the governor's office to make their voice heard. On our coalition website, reopenmichigansafely.com, we have the governor's constituents' phone number, her email. We have a petition that people can sign. It's time to make our voices heard on this, and that is really the reason for this coalition, is that we want them to start to rethink these blanket restrictions, these one-size-fits-all policies, and start loosening them, just like they have with restaurants and retailers and bowling alleys and movie theaters.
Are you thinking about going to court if that doesn't happen, or are you at that point yet?
I think right now we're focused on just trying to raise public awareness on this issue and to start to make our voices heard even more loudly with critical mass within the governor and her team. We've seen in other areas that when the public does get a little more vocal, that they have moved a little on these policies. And so that's really where our focus is right now. We hate to kind of say, yep, we're going to sue them, and hate for it to have to come to that, because we believe what we're suggesting here is reasonable. It's what pretty much every other state is doing. And, we're not trying to be reckless. We're focused on the safety, and our employers want our members, job providers, they want to safely return employees to the workplace. But we know these are some of the lowest risk settings. So we're just saying, give us a chance here. We got to get our economy moving. We got to get our workers back in many situations.
All right. Thanks, Wendy. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you.
Wendy Block, Michigan Chamber of Commerce. They're trying to reopen Michigan safely. WWJ.